Hi guys, um,
Hey,
I'm Joshi. As you know, I'm a Shut Up FC with the Brave FC team, and today we'll be going to the first edition of FC, what do to FC, right, for Combat Fleet Command. So I won't be going over the paperwork, right? Usually people tell you, oh, you need to do this to ping, whatever. No, I'm gonna teach you in this class hopefully that how do you even start? How do you even get on grid to fight? And what do you do when you get on grid to fight, alright? So the first things first, alright? Before you ping, before you even think of fighting the enemy, right? You see intel, let's say there's plus 30 in K7D. What do as an FC? You know you want to fight them, right? You want to go get some frags, have some fun, right? The first thing you do is remember intel wins fights, alright? You need to go through as an FC, you need to go through something called pre-deployment or pre-action procedures, right? So it's basically the four W1H, right? Who who is the enemy? Who are you fighting? Is it Fred? Is it Pandemic Horde? Is it Wormholers? Is it low sec guys? Is it big apps snuffed out? This is very important because over time, as you'll probably be PvPing a lot before you even step out to become an FC. You will eventually learn to know what enemy, what they bring, what their skill level is, and what kind of engagements they prefer. All right. So, for example, back then when we were in B2, Fred skirmish fleets love to brawl. Right, they come just for a brawl. They don't bring kitey bullshit. They come in how tank blaster ships, and they come to brawl, right? That's one thing. So once you see like, oh, there's 30 Fred, you already can think that they're probably in blaster ships. Or what if it's 30 Maracuga or 30 like Deepwater Hooligans? Then you think that, oh, these people prefer kitey stuff, right? Their skill level is quite high. These are not people you can easily push over. And yeah, you assess your enemy. Then also, the second part below that, you need to know what your enemy is in, right? This is very important because it will decide how you approach the fight or how you even approach the ping, right? Because there's a significant difference between 30 frigates and 30 cruisers or 30 battleships, for example, right? So the basic thing you could do if you're an FC and you see the plus 30, you need to ask for a D scan. You need a D scan. You don't ever deploy to a number. You need the specifications, right? Because you need the type of ships they're in to determine what you bring, how much logi they have, how much support they have. All right, because you need to run the numbers, which we'll go over later, and you also need to assess what type of engagement will you be taking with them. If it's 30, example, this is 30 Genosis, you probably know, okay, 30 Genosis, Blaster, how tanked, maybe you go into broad, right? Or is it 30 Tornadoes? Will they be jumping around good, tag to tag, sniping off your people? Yeah? Or it could be, let's see, or just we fought earlier, 30 Stabbers, right? What would they want? How would they be fit? People put Stabbers autocannon. So you know that, oh, okay, short range fit, Stabbers are fast, so they're gonna be fast, so on and so forth. Then you can ping a doctrine that will give you the most optimal advantage, for example, right? Then also that's that. It's a what is the enemy is also is more like you learn through experience and you learn through questions, you learn through asking, and you learn through assessing ZQ or remembering how you fought them before, for example, if you were on other fleets. That's more of a technical experience side, so I'm not going to go over that too much. The third part is where is the enemy? This is important because I think a lot of newer FCs they kind of see the intel ping, they get the D scan, and go like, oh, let's go, right? But where is the enemy is very important because you need to take in your fleet's travel time, right? So, example in Aquarius, there are a lot of pockets, right? So if an enemy enemy fleet finds themselves in a pocket, you know that you can pin them in that pocket, for example, right? So that's like you look at the map and you pinpoint where they are and also where they will go, all right? That's very important, especially because we are coming from one direction. They can go in any, right? And you need to take in account like how many jumps. Is if the fight is in Delve, 10 jumps away, you know that you might not even make it to fight them, right? Or maybe they're just next door, and they can go through this gate, they can go through that gate, so on and so forth, right? And also, just this is a more of like a higher level thing. If you know, sometimes the enemy will position themselves in range of certain areas that they can escalate from, or like example, let's not put escalation. Maybe there's a hostile fleet 2 jumps away from K70, and you know, or you heard from standing earlier, there's a wormhole next door to where they are at. That's so you know that they have an exit route behind them as well as a reinforcement route from behind them. Alright, so that's that. So okay, another thing is how did they get here? Alright, this is important on the higher level side, but also will help for skirmishes because, for example, how did the fleet even end up in Quarius? For example, how did the enemy fleet end up here? Did they come through a drifter wormhole? Is there a drifter wormhole nearby? Then we need to count as an exit. Did they filament in? If a fleet filaments in, they have no direct exit route. All right, they're just here to fight or do whatever, and they can't pop out through a wormhole or something. So you have that. Or did the enemy Titan bridge in? Did they blobs in? So on and so forth. It helps you assess like how did they get here in the first place? Where would they go after? Where would they run to? Where would they like try to linger around? Right? If they came through a drifter wormhole, a lot of fleets tend to path back towards the drifter wormhole after they see a response fleet, right? So you can plan your fleet's route accordingly. And also the last part, I think this is very important as well, is why. Why is the enemy fleet here? Alright, because fleets can have many objectives. They can be here to bash an NC. Objective wise, bash an NC. They can be here to they have a target, maybe they tackled a capital, they have a target, they're going to kill the capital. Or they are here to just get easy kills, they want to kite away, they don't want to fight, blah blah blah. Or they could be here to steal an ESS and have a broad. Alright? So the why they are here can be assessed with experience, and also it comes back to who is the enemy. If you know the certain type of enemies prefer a certain type of playstyle, then you can kind of assume why they are here, right? So that's your pre-deployment / action procedures. We're gonna move on. Any questions for this slide? No questions? You guys are catching on, right? Like comms are clear. Yeah. Okay.
No questions.
Okay.
Hey, how much time would you budget? If you got a bunch of jumps, how much time would you budget for the jumps?
Okay, so it really depends on what fleet. Okay, this comes to running the numbers as well. For example, if you're in frigates, let's say 3 jumps with frigates takes around 2 minutes. All right, 2 minutes. 3 jumps with cruisers takes around 4 to 5 minutes, and then you multiply from there, right? Because most of the time you'll be in cruisers. If you're in battle cruisers, maybe 3 jumps will take 6 minutes. Alright, so you count that in your time. So example like, oh shit, my friend in a Phoenix is tackled 3 jumps away. How long do I need to get to him? Will I get there in time? Or the enemy fleet is going this way. He's 3 jumps away. Will I get there faster than they do? For example, you are in cruisers, they are in battle cruisers, right? You take 4 minutes to jump 3 jumps, they take 6 minutes to jump 6 jumps. So you have that 2 minute time when you get there before they do, and then you can set up, right? So that's that. Multiplying by 3 is easier. So just take it as that. Because most of the time, the enemy fleet is like a multiple of 3s away from you. Okay, so we need to move on to FC objective. As an FC, you decide, right? You decide what the objective of your fleet is. It could be anything like you want to search and destroy. You want to find the enemy fleet. You want to destroy it. You want to kill them to a man, right? Or you could be going to rescue somebody, right? You could like a Rorco, a Orca, or somebody who needs help, right? Your objective is just to save them, right? Or you could go be like, you want to threaten and deter the enemy fleet from entering a certain area, or you want to chase them off, right? For example, like 40 PH Raptors, we sent Stormbringers at them to deter them from getting out of their pocket, to basically say, you go home, right? We know it's difficult to catch you, but if you stay here, you're gonna take losses, and you're gonna force the enemy FC to decide, do they take a fight with something they cannot win against, or do they go home, right? Because sometimes, you really can't. You won't be in a position to kill every single ship the enemy has, because to kill an enemy who is determined to run away is very difficult. Okay, then if your fleet, we move on to harass and disrupt. If you're like a roaming fleet, you have like 20 dudes, you want to go harass the enemy. Yeah, that's your objective, right? And then structured defense is more like a strap level like objective, where your example you're defending an supplies, you're defending a Fortizar. That is more complicated, so we leave that at that. So okay, before you undock, well, before you even ping, right, you need to have this like math that you do in your head, just like a basic equation. What is your fleet's limits, right? How much are you willing to lose, or what could be lost before you decide, okay, this fight is over, right? We can't take it anymore. So it's you set like a limit for yourself when you run the numbers and you have your fleet start piling into your fleet. You ping and you see, okay, I got 20 dudes. How many of those dudes can I lose before I decide that this is it? We need to go, right? So it could be any of these things, right? You lose loss of how much DPS, loss of how much logi, loss of objective, or the example like you're trying to defend an ESS. They take the ESS, and you reach there, let's say 5 minutes late, right? Your objective to have a fight in the ESS is gone because the ESS is gone. For example, that's that. And loss of rescue target, example, you're trying to rescue a dread and the dread dies before you get there. Your objective is null, alright? Loss of combat effectiveness / critical mass ties into the first 2 points. You only can push your fleet so far, right? If you have 20 guys, you're down to 10. You're not killing the enemy anymore. You have hit your limit. Your fleet has hit your limit, and you should be considering getting the fuck out, right? So that's that. Because as much as Valhalla mindset is a thing, you need to be very careful not to push your fleet too far, right? So you have to set that limit for yourself. So we're coming down to more important points. Doctrine choices, the type of the weapons you bring to a fight will decide the entire engagement, right? You don't bring T1 cruisers to fight like a full-on battleship fleet, right? Unless you got 200 dudes. You want to choose something that will fit the engagement. If you're fighting frigates, you can bring your own frigates, you can bring your own destroyers, or you could bring rapid light caracals, for example, right? So okay, I'm gonna just address this point because a lot of people love to do this, and also this question gets asked a bunch. Like FC, can't we just drop dreads on them? Like dreads very powerful, very powerful, very strong. If we drop it on a fleet, they are dead, right? You need to consider the most powerful thing the enemy has is their warp drive. Alright? if you drop a dread on a fleet that's not pinned down, and that fleet decides, fuck that, that's a Phoenix Navy, I'm not staying here, they're gonna warp out, right? You're gonna warp out, you're gonna be left sitting there with your 5-minute siege timer, and then you are now something that we need to take care of, okay? In case something drops on you. So your doctrine choices should grant you, in skirmish fights, the chance of a winnable engagement, as well as an engagement in the first place. Alright? If an enemy fleet, you want to fight an enemy fleet, right? The enemy fleet wants to fight you, and then you throw a dread at them, they will probably warp off, right? Then you don't get a fight. They don't get a fight, you don't get a fight. The dread doesn't get a fight, right? So, and chasing is not fun. Chasing is really not fun. You don't want to be chasing the fleet you wanted to fight, like 12 jumps around Aquarius, and then they decide, they might just drop another Phoenix on us. We're gonna go, alright? But I'm not saying don't drop dreads. If you see the bottom point, you get a fight, you bubble them, you pin the enemy down, then you drop a dread on them, alright? Because remember, most powerful weapon is the warp drive. You take that out, then yeah, they can't run, right? They have to be forced to fight with the dread. But if people have a choice, you give them a choice, they will probably not take a fight with the dread, right? So we're gonna move on. Now you did your pre-deployment stuff, right? What do you want to bring? Okay, enemy has frigates. What do you want to bring? Your own frigates, right? Frigates match frigates, so on and so forth. Or if you want a hard counter, you bring Caracos with light missiles, right? Then you scale it upon what you're fighting. Enemy brings cruisers, you bring cruisers. Or you go up to battle cruisers, or you go up to battleships, right? You try to match or outmatch the enemy when you're fighting them as much as possible. Right? It's fine if you want to go cruiser on cruiser, but it's also fine if you want to go like, I want to fight this fleet with my Hurricanes or my Phalanxes. I feel more comfortable with them. That's fine, right? You try not to bring unless you overwhelm them significantly, right? You don't try to bring a down ship to an up ship, right? It's not gonna turn out particularly well unless you got a lot of dudes, right? Like you can't really rush a Ferox fleet with a bunch of red trees and expect to trade positively, right? Yeah, so this is the point. Always find the counter/superior doctrine to the enemy's composition. This is very important. You don't want, as much as we want to say, okay, we want a fair fights in Eve, like Brave gives fights, we want a fair fights in Eve. In a fight, right, you are in the fight. You don't want to be on the same level as the enemy as much as possible, right? You want to find any advantage you got to win the fight. So and it comes down to the doctrine. If you have a doctrine that counters them, you have a doctrine that's better than them, then you have that advantage at minimum, right? Like if you're fighting, let's see, let me look. Okay, let's just use the Caracal example. You're fighting Caracals. You know they're light missile fit. You don't want to use frigates against them. So you think to yourself, what can I bring that will be superior to the Caracals? And you look at the doctrine list, you go, oh wait, I can bring Hurricanes, I can bring Phalanxes, so on and so forth, right? Or like, if the enemy is very slow, like they have 30 battleships, right? They're sitting outside the ESS, and they're like on an NC baiting a fight. You don't really want to go bring something that they can fight, and they can, they have the advantage in the fight, right? So you bring Osprey Navies, and you outrange them, so on and so forth, because you're superior in that respect, right? You want to at least try to find one advantage you have over the enemy fleet, whether it's you're tankier, you are faster, you apply more DPS, you have more drones, so on and so forth. Or you have more logic than them. Yeah, you always need to find at least one advantage you have over the enemy fleet, because in a straight up fair fight, it comes down to you may lose, right? The risk of loss is there, because you decided, I wanna do Bushido. Let's fight 20 calcos with no logic with 20 calcos with no logic, right? I mean, if your objective is to win, that is, then you follow this. Okay, if you're unable, right? If you're unable to, you don't have a counter, you don't have a superior doctrine at hand. Your positioning and grid control will win the fight for you, right? Because earlier we fought a stabber fleet. By all technicality, right? The stabber fleet could have mauled us. They could have shredded us, right? But we had the superior position and the superior grid control. We had a lot of support craft that were webbing their anchors. We had a lot of tackle that was squamming people. We had a lot of dictors. This grants us, right, a fleet that's at a disadvantage, an advantage in the fight. And we kind of turbo dunked them because of it. So yeah, that's that. So now you got the doctrine. Now this comes to the math, right? Usually when you ping a fleet, you ping an organized fleet, you have logic, right? You have logic. So how much logic do you want, right? Do you need for a fight? So you run the numbers. This is the basic math. This is the math I use when I ping a fleet. 1 T1 logic, right? 1 scythe, for example. You can tank 5 frigates. Or you can tank 2.5 cruisers. They are not blaster, non-polarized, because blaster and polarized cruisers their damage kind of varies and they're very high. They are in their own little category, but we'll probably not go over that. And 1 T2 logic, you got scimitar, right? You got scimitar, you tank 10 frigates, you can tank 5 cruisers. If you got Shavala, you can tank 10 dreads and 6 supers. Yeah? That's Shavala, but we don't have her every time. So basically, the enemy has 20 cruisers, right? You kind of, if you don't want your fleet to die to them, you do the math. Okay, I need 4 simis. 4 simis, I can tank their whole fleet CPS, right? The exception to this is Basilisk Cap Chain. They can tank around 15 cruisers, for example. Then if you want to think like, oh, how many battleships can I tank? That kind of varies on weapon system, right? Because cruisers they kind of level out on their DPS output, but battleships can vary greatly depending on what weapon system they have. So that's a bit more complicated. So what if you don't have enough logic, right? You have the basic math. They got 20 cruisers, you got 3 logic. What do you need to do? You kill 5 cruisers, right? You kill 5 cruisers. Now they have 15 cruisers, and now you can tank, right? Correct. So, example, they have 20 cruisers. You have 15 cruisers and 3 logi. You're not tanking them, right? So what do? You minus 5 of their cruisers, and now you can tank, right? So this is the part where you need to calculate in your head how many do I kill, so my fleet has the advantage in tank, right? You ideally want to kill enough DPS for your own fleet to survive. So yeah, that's that. Okay, so now you're done, right? You got your DPS, you got your logi, you're happy, you feel comfortable. Run more numbers. What support craft do you have, right? Do you, at minimum, right? Do you have 2 tackle? Do you have a dictor? Can you catch the enemy and pin them down if you get in a fight? Or even if you don't get a fight, can you at least catch stuff? Can you force them into a fight? These things are very important, because if you don't have tackle, you don't have dictors, it comes down to the enemy's choice whether they want to fight you or not. And we try to not give the enemy a choice to fight, right? We want to make them fight. Is the ideal scenario. And yeah, remember, the best weapon that the enemy has is their warp drive. You can't fight an enemy who is absolutely determined to run away from you, right? That's why you need tackle. Okay, now we're going to come down to some FC terms, right? It's getting a bit more complicated now. So, what is trading? You might hear this term thrown around by FCs in command comms or whatever, or maybe you hear it here and there. What does trading mean? Trading means you kill X amount of DPS to your X amount of DPS loss, right? For example, like they lose 2 cruisers to your 1 cruiser. That is a positive trade, right? If you see that 2 to 1 trade in an even fight, you're winning, right? You're out trading the enemy. If you're trading, however, you are losing 3 cruisers to 1 cruiser. That's not good. That's a bad trade. You are trading badly, right? Unless you really outnumber the enemy, like you're fighting, you have 200 guys, you have 20, then so be it, right? But in any other scenario, if you are genuinely losing 3 DPS to 1 of their DPS, you are not trading well, right? You ideally want to out trade the enemy so you can thin the enemy's numbers faster than they thin yours, right? So you always want to trade positively with them. You want to go like, you want to kill 2 DPS for 1 DPS loss. You want to go 3 DPS for every 1 DPS loss. If you're killing 5 DPS for 1 DPS loss, you're doing very well, right? So that's that. Okay, what is critical mass? You may hear this when people are fighting marauders, they're fighting stuff with reps. You might hear this term called critical mass go out. What is critical mass? Right, critical mass applies when the target you are shooting have 1, they have self reps, they have armor reps, shield reps, ancillaries, whatever, or logi reps, right? Critical mass means the X amount of DPS to break their tank or their reps, right, or their logi reps, right? If you don't have enough DPS or enough mass, the enemy don't die, right? Simple, right? Monkey. So what can help with critical mass? What are you shooting at the enemy, right? If you are in a missile doctrine, you wanna make sure you're shooting the right ammo for their hole, right? Most ships across the races have a weakness, right? For example, like shield tank ships are weak to Mjolnir. Armor tank ships can differ. Sometimes it's explosive, sometimes it's thermal, sometimes it's connecting, right? So you may not be breaking the enemy. Example, you're shooting like a marauder, right? You're shooting him with, let's say, thermal, and you can see you're doing damage, but he's tanking. Maybe switching ammo, applying the correct type of ammo, the damage type, will increase your DPS, will increase the pressure, and then you might break his tank, right? And then your range. If you're not breaking them, right, and you're using range ammo, you might want to think, should we go closer? Maybe should we push them, right? Go closer, use T2 ammo, use short range ammo. Would this help? Yes, it will, right? Means you up the DPS number. And also newts, right? You're fighting a marauder, for example, you're fighting a dread. It's tanking. You know you don't have the critical mass. You're shooting the right ammo type, but you just can't break his tank. Newts, right? Do you have a curse? Do you have void bombers? Do you have bombers, right? Or are your ships equipped with newts? If some doctrines we do have newts on our ships, sometimes it's good, and if you feel comfortable enough, you can close the distance, put the newts on, and they can't activate their tank, right? If you can't activate the tank, they're not tanking. Or other than that, right? You also the last part. If you don't have enough mass, get more mass, right? Get more dudes. You got 20 dudes. 20 dudes is not enough, and you are in a position where you can call more dudes. Right? If you get 10 more dudes, you can break him, for example. So that's that. So you got the basics down, right? So how do you fight? When you get on grid, how do you fight, right? So the very basics of things, right, is range. If you see in the photo here, you look where the threat fleet is, and you look at where my fleet is. You always want to be at range from the enemy, unless you are really like blaster or blaster fit, and you are in the ESS. That's different. But range is your friend. You want to be out of the enemy's DPS range, or at least out of their highest application DPS range, or at very minimum, you want to be away at range from like the big blob of red in front of you, right? You don't want to be inside the blob of red with your fleet. If you're in the middle of the enemy fleet, there's something wrong, right? Okay, unless they outrange you, then you need to make the decision. You want to be closer, right? You want to be on top of them. That's when you use some stuff like combat probes, you use tags, You want to get closer to them. So range is very important. It goes both ways. Sometimes you want to pull range, sometimes you want to close range. You determine it in the fight. If you know your enemy is short range, you want to be far, right? If you know the enemy is long range, you want to be close, right? So it goes, it's a push and pull. Another thing, don't be kited. Very important. A lot of FCs fail to see this. If you know the enemy is faster, right, and they're kiting away, they're going twice your speed of your fleet, you need to stop chasing, right? Unless you are confident you can catch them. Like maybe it's just a bit of distance, you can catch them, you're faster. But if they're really faster than you need to reassess, right? How do you close the distance? How do you get yourself on top of them? Like, do you use your combat probes? Do you have a tech near them? Maybe you can get a probing ship or like a tackle ship that can get there faster than your fleet and warp your fleet on top of them. All right. So that's that. There's more of like assessing the engagement kind of thing. All right. So this is another thing. For every fleet, when you engage, right, there is a certain kill zone where they can apply the most DPS, right? Think of it as like a bubble around their fleet. That if your fleet is in that bubble, they can apply the most DPS to you, right? So if you look at this photo I have, it's an ESS fight with Fred. Look at where the blob of enemy of red flashes are, and look at where the purple is, right? You don't want your fleet. You never want your fleet to be in that blob of red. If your fleet is in that blob of red, you're inside the X, right? Or if you're like right next to the blob of red, you are in the kill zone. You don't want to be there, right? You want to be out of it. So always, if you find yourself in that situation, you want to pull range, right? You want to make sure you get off that kill zone with your fleet. And if let's say you can't, right? You are anchoring, you are the anchor ship, and you are webbed, you are scrammed, you are stuck, right? A lot of FCs make this mistake. Don't let your fleet train wreck behind you, because it happens, right? It happened earlier with Zigum when he got webbed. His anchor ship got webbed, and his fleet train wrecked behind him, and we just smacked them, right? Your fleet, you can give orders to your fleet. If you're in a position where you can't move, your fleet can move. So orbit, call them to orbit. Tell them, shit, okay, my ship is stuck. My fleet is not. Tell your fleet, okay, orbit the FC 15 kilometers. Your fleet is moving, right? Your fleet is moving themselves off the X, right? And you can continue the fight from there. Because most of the time your command ship is fine. Your command ship is a tankiest shit on grid. Most of the time you won't be shot. If you're in a monitor, like you don't care, right? You're the tankiest shit on grid. But make sure your fleet is also moving, right? If your FC is stuck, the fleet is not stuck. Move the fleet, right? And the anchor ship is not like the absolute, right? Very important. No FCs forget this. Okay, right, you're fighting, right? What do you call primary? What do you F1 on? Your overview is full of red ships. You look at it and you're a bit overwhelmed. What do you shoot at? Okay. For example, you're fighting a fleet. If they have no logi, and you know they have no logi, you want to kill the highest DPS on grid first, right? Because you want your people to survive, right? So you kill the thing with the biggest guns, or the thing that can apply the most DPS. You kill that first, and then you follow up by you kill E-War, because if you have a logic and you don't want them to be jammed, you kill E-War or a Kurt. If like they have a curse, they have a Lechisis or whatever, you want to kill that next. Then you go for their links. You want to kill their command ship. Not their FC, but I mean like their little command ship, their links, because sometimes the links is what gives the hostile fleet the strength to fight. If you kill that, their links go down. Now you have the advantage in the fight, right? So what if they have logi, right? Okay, they got like a logi wing. You continue. You kill highest DPS first, and then you go for logi, right? You kill the DPS, and then if you see there's a logi out of anchor, you see a logi that's in range, you kill that logi, right? Because then it speeds up how fast you kill DPS. And also, if you realize, right, oh no, I'm not breaking their DPS, what do? You go for logi. right? You try to kill Logi, because I mean, you might think that, oh, if I shoot DPS and Logi holds them, if I shoot Logi will hold, right? Not necessarily. Sometimes the Logi is weaker than their like in resist wise, it's weaker than their DPS. Sometimes you can volley a Logi but not volley a DPS, right? And if you commit on Logi hard enough, eventually you poke a hole, right? You poke a hole, you manage to kill one Logi, and suddenly your DPS is high enough now, right? For example, like a Basilisk cap chain, you might not be able to break the DPS, but then you manage to kill one Bessie, their cap chain goes down, and then you start killing stuff again, right? So you always remember, in a fight, like in a straight up fight, proper fight, this is what you follow. You want to kill DPS, you want to trade, you want to kill Ewar, you want to kill Logi, and you want to kill Links, right? In that order. DPS, Ewar, Logi, Links. Okay, how do you, if your goal is you want to render them combat ineffective, this applies to rescue fleets or structure defense, like skirmish structure defense, or like dread tackle kind of thing. You want to make them disengage, right? You want to get them off the objective. You go for Links, you go for DPS, and you go for Logi, right? Because I think one of the things that the call outs that FCs that will like weaken the FC's resolve to keep the fight, right, is if they lose their Links, right? So if the FC's seeing that minus shield links, minus scum links, minus info links, they will be in a bad position, right? They have to choose, oh, I'm in a disadvantage now. I don't have info links, I don't have the speed, I don't have the tank. Do I stay, right? So it's very important. And also, one of the important points, and then again, it's one of the things that FCs, the more junior ones, they will make this mistake. You don't primary the biggest / most tankiest ship on grid, even if it's like a 5 build Varga. You know it's a 5 build Varga, but it has 20 cruisers around it. Don't shoot the Varga first, right? You want to trade. It's always a trade, right? It's not always the shiny battle report. You want to make sure you win the fight. So as tempting as it is, like, oh yeah, everybody all in on the 5 build Varga, we can kill it, and then you don't realize that the enemy is trading DPS with you, right? So now you're wasting your time shooting the Varga while they are killing your fleet. So that's that. Okay, why no shoot big thing FC, but my shiny BR in a fight, right? Fights happen really quickly, like skirmish fights especially. Your time on the grid is actually really short. If you notice, most fights are over within 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe. Sometimes prolonged fights last up to 30 minutes. You need to always trade positively with the enemy in that short period of time to come out with a win, right? The less time spent, the time spent shooting like a super tank Varga, a good Varga fit, or like a how tank Dominix, right, is less time shooting their DPS and their Logi. Very important, right? Because no matter how shiny the ship in front of you is, it doesn't matter if you lose, right? If you lose the fight and you don't kill the shiny thing, then there's no point, right? You want to get, once you win the fight, then you can kill the shiny thing, right? Okay, this aside from ESS fights, if you are in a ESS fleet in enemy space, then yeah, you want to shoot the big shiny thing because you want that nice BR. But other than that, if you're you're doing home defense and stuff, yeah, you want to win. And also remember, the Varga is not the scariest thing on grid, it's the 20 cruisers with it. Alright, that's very important. Because I have seen fleets where the FC shoots the Marauder, for example, and ignores the rest of the enemy fleet, and then they get stomped, right? Because they don't break the Varga, and now they're losing DPS, right? And then if you're not breaking the Varga with the ships you have, I don't think you can break it if you lose half the fleet. So that's that. So now you're on grid, now you're fighting. What do you do? Right, what is a FC? What do you do? You are not calling primaries, right? You as an FC, you are not an F1 monkey. You are the one you're the head monkey, right? You are telling people to F1 on, right? So you call primaries. What you need to do, or you need to observe. You need to listen and you need to control, right? You need to watch the grid. You need to tell what the enemy is doing. How is your fleet doing? How is the enemy fleet doing? What do you think they are? Where is their position on the grid, right? You wanna watch these things. You want to make sure that you are one step ahead of the enemy, always, right? Because you can actually see, this comes from your experience, when what the enemy fleet is intending to do, right? Sometimes when they want to disengage, they start pulling range, they start to try to like get away from you, right? They try to get off the X. The enemy fleet is trying to get off the X, and now you know, okay, you have them on the back foot, they're trying to run. You go in and you commit on them, right? Or like the enemy fleet is diving. Suddenly they're turning on you. They're diving straight at your fleet. You need to assess. You need to act. You need to either turn away, or you turn into them. Right? You want to brawl, or you want to run. You want to pull range. Right? Another thing is you need to listen to your fleet members, and that's why I personally I don't see in command comms. Right? It's very important. I feel for FCing is you need to listen to your own ships. Right? You may be the fleet commander, but you're in command of a fleet, right? You can't command if you don't have a fleet left, right? So asking questions like, Logi, are we holding? Are we good? Guys, are you applying well? Can you track? Are you tracking the enemy? Are you able to apply well? Are you doing enough DPS? Are you in range? Right? Or are we our cap? Is your cap stable? Do you guys need us to pause? Right? These things are really important, right? Because sometimes you may lose track. FCs will lose track. They will see like they think they're winning, and then they don't realize they just lost their entire logic ring, or they lost all their lanes because they're not paying attention, right? They're not listening, right? Another thing is control. You are controlling what your fleet is doing. This is a bit different from please shoot the right target, right? That I mean, sometimes people will split DPS. It's like that. People F1 on the wrong thing. Controlling your fleet means you need to make sure they're doing what you want them to do. Right? If you want them to orbit, make sure they're orbiting. If you want them to get out of bubbles, make sure you get out of bubbles. You want them to warp to a certain distance, make sure they warp to a certain distance. Right? People in fleets, they listen sometimes they don't have their brain cells on and they do silly things. It's fine, but you want to make sure that they understand you and you have control. Right? Because if your fleet spaghettis. We call this, I call it spaghetting. Sometimes the fleet just loses cohesion, right? They just don't know what to do. Like the FC is suddenly quiet, right? And then the fleet is like, what do we do? What do we do? And then they start doing their own things because they panic, right? That's very important. If the FC is calm, the FC is controlling, the FC is talking to his fleet. The fleet will feel comfortable, right? The fleet will keep calm. They won't panic, right? That's why I don't like starburst orders, because I feel like calling a starburst is saying every man for himself, and that's not good. Okay. So yeah, judge what the enemy is doing, what your fleet is going, or what your fleet is doing. It's supposed to be, it's not going, but yeah. And make sure your fleet is actually doing what you intended them to do, right? So if you're going one way, make sure your fleet is not going the other way, right? Any questions before we move on?
What's the URL for the Twitch?
Oh, one sec. It's in standing. Are you in standing, TPMC?
No.
Okay, wait. I will send it into LaFam.
Got it, thanks.
Okay. Moving on. All right. Back to I think it was one of the first slides. You need to know your limits, right? As tempting as it is, you want to go Valhalla. You want to get your whole fleet. Okay, everyone die. We're gonna die for this, right? Your objective, even if you don't tell the fleet, if you tell your fleet, okay, we're going to Valhalla, you must not believe in Valhalla as an FC. Your objective must be to kill the enemy, and you need to keep your fleet alive, right? You don't just, okay, I'm gonna anchor on the enemy monitor, like we're gonna all die, right? No, you need to play smart, right? If you want to Valhalla, you Valhalla smartly, right? If the hostiles have too much, or you're clearly like at a disadvantage, you need to proceed with extraction, right? There is no point dying against a wall or dying on a hill that you don't need to die on, right? Like find a hill or find a fight where dying for the fight is worth something, right? There's no point diving 20 cruisers into 100, right? Valhalla or not. You're just gonna make the enemy FC very confused, right? So how do you extract, right? As I'm not gonna make this its own slide, but how do you extract from a fleet? Let's say you're new and you realize that, okay, maybe they have too much. Maybe my fleet's not doing as well as I thought it would be. I think we need to go, right? What you do is you pull range away from the enemy fleet. You want to get distance, right? Distance away from the enemy fleet. You want to kill. First thing, you kill dictators. You must kill the bubblers. You kill the tackle, right? You want to get as many guys out as possible. Don't be like Pandemic Horde where their FC warps off without your fleet. Make sure you kill dictators, you kill tackle. Okay, this is a tip. All right. If you're in a command ship, you're in an anchor ship, right? What I like to do is, if I'm thinking that maybe I want to disengage, I don't tell the fleet to align. I align my monitor, for example, to what I want to warp to, and the fleet will align kind of in that same direction, right? So it makes it easier in case you think you reconsider, like, oh wait, maybe I can fight this. Now you don't have to spaghetti your fleet by telling them suddenly from align to anchor, right? You just align yourself when your fleet follows you, and then if you need to warp off, your fleet is already aligned. All right. So that's a little tip. Always try to warp out together. If you can manage it, if you're not being that pressured where you need to warp off with half your fleet in a bubble, try not to. Try to get as many dudes out. Very important. Remember, every DPS, every pilot plays a role to your fleet. So you just need to remember that. They're not just a number on the screen to win a fight. Right? They're your own pilots who join your fleet because they wanna fight, they wanna win. Right? So, and also there's no shame. There's really no shame in running away. Right? In tactical retreats. If you can't fight, you can't fight. Right? The numbers don't add up, you can't fight. You don't feel like you have an obligation to, I need to dive. I need to like fight them for some reason, right? There is no shame in running away, right? So that's that. At the end of the day, right, as an FC, no matter how out of the water you feel, you remain calm, right? Or if you start to panic calmly, right? Don't start screaming in comms, right? It's not good, right? You always remember that even if you're in a bubble with a Munich fleet on top of you, right? You remain calm. You get your fleet out. You try to get your fleet out, and then when you warp off, you land on tether on a fort, and then you panic, right? So always keep a clear head. Try to keep a clear head. Talk to your fleet. If you're feeling unsure, talk to your fleet. If you have secondary FCs, talk to them, right? Or what I like to do is I like to talk to my fleet. If I'm feeling unsure about a situation, and then things remain calm. Right, the fleet knows what's going on. You get a better understanding of the situation, and then you can go and kill the enemy. All right. So yeah, so that's that's the end of the class. Any questions?
Yeah, real quick, I got a couple disconnects here. The internet sucks. At any point during an engagement, would you split fire? And I don't know if you covered that or not. I was just curious. Like if you were to group up an entire fleet, let's say split it in half, like top, bottom of the list kind of thing.
Okay.
And engage more than one target at a time.
Right. That's actually a good point. Right? It plays into fleet cohesion, which is a bit more complicated matter. Splitting guns to shoot an enemy fleet, okay. In some situations that you may think that's ideal, right? But if you're ever a fleet member and FC tells you to split your guns and he broadcasts 2 sets of targets, right? In like a confusing fight, some people may find it difficult to split their damage to the correct target. All right, so sometimes if you do that, sometimes you have 30 guys shooting with split guns one guy and you have 10 guys shooting the other guy, right? And at the end of the day, if the enemy fleet has logic, they will catch the guy getting shot by 10 guys, and then you're not trading well, right? That's why you don't really split guns unless you are shooting at a structure and you need to keep the structure paused, right? It's more like a fleet cohesion thing, and you kind of want to make sure things die fast, right? Die fast without confusing your own fleet, right? Because if you have a lot of different broadcasts, your fleet might be shooting the wrong thing, right? So that's why FC is usually only call secondary, primary, right? And sometimes people don't shoot the primary, they shoot the secondary, right? So you want to make sure you don't confuse your own fleet with conflicting broadcasts, right? Anything else? Yes.
What was the target priority again? What was it? Links, lodging. What was it?
Alright. So target priority. The main thing you follow is DPS, EWAR, logi, and links. That is your basic, right? Your basic primary thing. Alright. Everything else is a bit more complicated than that. Alright. All this comes down to how much the enemy has and stuff like that. So if they're tanking with the logi, you kill the logi, then you kill the DPS. If they are not tanking, you kill DPS, EWAR, logi, then they go for links. Or like
Okay.
yeah, and then the links DPS logi is more like a situational thing that you want the enemy off grid rather than killing them. Because sometimes in certain situations you want them to disengage instead of killing them fully.
Why doesn't it make sense to just kill the Logi first, since the Logi is the thing that's going to keep them alive?
Okay, so it depends, right? That's a very good question. Why don't shoot logi first? Because, for example, let me go back to this. All right, it comes down to trading, right? You would think shooting logi will make you trade faster, right? In Python, on paper, it will make you trade faster, right? But on grid, if you are shooting their logi and they are shooting your DPS, you are trading logi for DPS, right? But in an ideal situation, you want to be trading DPS for DPS, because the DPS is shooting you, right? The logi will not. I mean drones, but whatever. So in an ideal situation, you want to kill DPS, and then when you have opportunity, you kill logi, right? That's why you rarely see in fleets people primary logi first unless there's a genuine reason for them to.
Hey,
But
can
at the
I
same
ask-
time, you said that one Logi can wrap 5 DPS ships. So if you kill one Logi and they kill 2 DPS, the numbers are still on your side, I think.
Yeah, that comes down to what the enemy fleet composition is, right? So like, let's say that's a very good question. Let's say you got 20 cruisers, 5 logi, and you have let's say 20 cruisers and 3 logi, makes it easier. And you have 25 cruisers, right? You now have enough DPS to just kill them even if they don't have logi. Even if they have 3 logi, right? So at that point, this is just for your reference, for your fleet's reference. Do how much logi you need to tank their enemy fleet, right? And this is paper. It's what you want when you ping the fleet and whatever. But like on grid, this is not fully, what do you call that? How to say it? Like theory to practice, right? They may have 4 semis, but sometimes you may alpha them enough to make the semis less of a priority, right? Unless you're really thinking that, okay, maybe if I kill logi, I may trade better, right? Sometimes you might see it where it's situational, where you come down to, okay, they're trading well because of their logi. Once you notice that, okay, I'm trading 2 DPS to 1 DPS because of their logi, then you can consider maybe I kill a couple logi, then I trade better, right? So this what you call that? This primary thing is just the basic guide out. In a actual fight, it comes down to your observation. Right? If you feel that you can trade better, if you start killing logi, kill logi, right? If you feel that you are trading well even if they have logi, then you just keep killing DPS. Understand?
Hey, can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, my mic was muted. So like the first quest guy, he was asking about splitting. He was kind of like talking about shooting more than one targets. So you'll see a lot of that. You'll see more of that in skirmish and small gang. But so like if your fleet has overwhelming numbers or the advantage like Joshi was talking about is a lot higher on your side, like say you warp caracals into 20 frigates or something like that, you might call free fire because then the amount of time it takes you to call primary is less than the amount of time it would take just to kill stuff, right? Or you might have like in a small gang format or even a medium skirmish format, and say you're roaming or you're fighting bigger numbers and kind of like on some elite stuff. You'll have a squad that'll be shooting tackle and certain specialty ships, while a core is shooting DPS, and another might be looking going at the E-wars. But in the big fleets, like Josh was saying, you'll break down cohesion more by trying to do that than just shooting the primary. And then the TPMC, you asked about the Logi thing. The issue, which to distill it down to like a smaller statement about what Josh was getting at, is that it's a DPS race, right? So on paper, it looks like yeah, you shoot the Logi, but the whole thing is about getting DPS off the grid, and everything about your target choice is about DPS off grid. So sometimes that means just shoot the DPS, and sometimes it may mean shooting something else. But the point is to get the DPS off grid. So the only time DPS is not the target is if there's a reason why it'd be faster to shoot something else off the grid to get DPS off grid, right? And you got to think of the term time sink, which kind of touches the Varger conversation. Shooting Logi can sometimes be a time sink. So you might kill some Logi, but if they've killed 15 ships or 10 ships, and the time it took you to kill Logi, you're right back where you started because your numbers are even to theirs. And yes, you killed some other Logi, but when you do the math, you're back to where you started, right?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, but on Moja's point, every fight you take in Eve is always a DPS race, right? So if you want to win the DPS race as much as possible, right? If you're falling behind and you want to get ahead, you kill a couple logi, and then you go for DPS, and then you find yourself ahead. Then that's that. It comes down to the engagement, right? Because the time wasted. Okay, I'll take this term from Spicy, one of the Blob FCs who was in B2. What is it called? Logi tank, right? Is a waste of time, right? So every moment that the enemy is shooting your logi, you are shooting their DPS, you are ahead, right? You're ahead in the DPS race. If you're shooting their logi instead of their DPS, they are ahead of you in their DPS race, right? So always understand that the DPS race is the most important race, regardless of how much logi both sides have.
It's worth mentioning to help kind of wrap your head around that concept that logi will usually be much more difficult to apply to than their DPS because they'll oftentimes be positioned differently and farther back.
Yes, correct.
So they're oftentimes can't apply.
Yeah,
so that helps.
Like going on a murder time sink. If you spend 10 seconds, you take 10 seconds to kill a DPS, you take 30 seconds to kill a logi, you're behind, right? So basically that's that. And that's why, and also that you can apply that on your fleets, right? You think, when you do the math, if you have good enough logi, if the enemy is shooting logi, because you have enough, then you are ahead, right? So that's the advantage you have, which is a logi wing. Now you have like that extra time on your hands because you're busy shooting your logi and you're busy trading DPS. So yeah. Right, any other questions? Alright, I think that is a no. You guys can always drop questions to me in Slack or on standing comms. I am always down to answer. But I
Oh,
can.
I had one. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you ever I've had this problem a couple before. Do you ever feather your speed? I guess you fly a monitor a lot, so you might not have that problem. But sometimes you get in a situation where you're outrunning your fleet. Like I've been in that situation where like I'm a little bit too fast, or like I have the tail between the back of my ship and the front of my first ship, and our glorious conga line is pretty far, right?
Uh-huh.
Do you do anything to mitigate that?
Okay, I do. Okay. This is more complicated, but you guys can listen in. So what Moda is saying is feathering your command ship speed, your anchor ship speed. Sometimes, for a monitor, it doesn't really matter because the monitor is always slower than the Doctrine, most of the time at least. Because the monitor doesn't get bonuses to speed or whatever. But sometimes you'll not be in a monitor, you're in a Cyclone, you're in a Claymore, you're in a Stalk. What I do, right, is being faster in your fleet is sometimes okay. Example, you are chasing an enemy fleet. You are a bit ahead of your fleet. Your fleet is in one line. That sometimes it's okay, right? Sometimes keep at range 1000 will make your fleet slower, and you will have a tail. It just happens. But what I do personally is I will slow. For example, I was in a Stalk earlier on the Calico fleet, and the anchor switched to me. My Stalk is faster than the Calicos, right? So what I do is I speed ahead a little bit of the fleet, and then I slow down. I do the click your speed thing, and I slow it down to just below the Calico standard speed, right? Then I can be ahead of the fleet, and the fleet can slowly be catching up to me, right? And then when they caught up to me, now we're in a little ball, and now we're all together, right? So feathering your speed is more like you kind of always want to fly the command ship where you match the speed of your, or you are slightly faster or slightly slower than your main Doctrine. But if you are in a ship that's faster than the rest of your fleet, always try to make sure you check that you are not outrunning your fleet, right? So you just feather your speed, you adjust your speed, and then you go from there.
Did you cover alt usage at all?
Sorry,
What
second.
I'm seeing. Did you cover like the usage of alts and suggested usages of alts whilst FCing?
No, but I didn't cover that in this thing, but okay. Break it down for me. What do you mean by the usage of alts?
I always like to keep like an alt like for like scouting either in a Covops or an NT or maybe a Dictor or Sino. It's just
Okay.
that
That
kind of
comes
idea.
down to FC to FC, how much you
Sure,
can
sure.
manage at the same time. I know a lot of FCs, the higher end ones, that they can multi-box their fleet as well as their support, whether it's a Dictor or whether it's a Scout. But as an FC, you really have a lot on your plate, right? Having a Scout out is fine, right? You want to see where the enemy fleet is going, you throw them in a shuttle out, it's okay. But remember, you have your homies, right? You have the fleet you are in. The less that's on your plate, the better you can concentrate on the fight itself, right? So if you're multi-boxing 6 characters, it's gonna be significantly harder for you to FC the fight itself if you're like looking at 6 other screens. You know what I mean?
Good point.
So like, if you need a Scout, ask your fleet. If you need a Sino, and if you can have your own signo, that's cool. But if your fleet can give you a signo, ask your fleet to give you a signo. So on and so forth. If you need a dictator, ask your fleet. Try to get as many things off your plate so you can focus on the task at hand. You know what I mean?
Cool.
Right. Any other questions? Okay, if not, then I'm gonna end the class here because I kind of pushed back somebody's parchment dojo class a little bit for this. So I appreciate you guys coming. If you guys got any questions, I'm always around. If you want more detailed talks about more specific scenarios, you can always come to me and ask. But this is just the basics, right? And the basics took like around an hour to cover. It's a lot. It's a bit daunting. I can tell. But the main thing is that how do you actually learn before you start or when you start is you just when you're in a fleet, for example, and you are listening to FC, just imagine you are the FC. What would you do, right? What will you do in that situation? And then you replicate it when you have your own fleet, for example, right? And then it comes down to experience as well. The more you get on grid, the more the theory, the basics make sense, right? And then when all else fails and you fall down to the basics, you know you can still keep your fleet in the fight, right? So yeah, the more complicated stuff just comes with experience, and you don't really need to learn that on the fly. I mean, you learn that on the ground, but you don't need to learn that in a classroom. You know what I mean? So yeah, thanks for coming, guys. I'm going to end the class here.
Thanks for doing the class.
Thank
Yeah.
Thanks for the class.
No problem. I'll upload this